I think it was probably around like 1 o'clock in the morning. I came to a camp. I'd hit a logging road, gone a few miles on that. I came to a camp. I was like, all right, I got to get into this thing somehow. Their back door was like, the hinges were nailed in instead of screwed. So I pulled a couple of nails out and got in the door that way and was like, thank God.
It's another episode of Northwoods Whitetails Podcast. I'm down here in, what do you want to call it, southern New Hampshire? Central?
I think we're central.
Long ways away from home for me. That's all I know. But,
other side of the Vermont border, at least.
Yeah, yep. And I'm sitting here with Jamie Savage and Kyle Lentz.
Yep.
And
Travis Williams. I'm down here, too, to hang out and shoot some deer, tell a few stories.
Yeah, it should be a good episode. I've been walking around your house, Jamie, and there's some really big bucks on the wall. So
thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Yeah,
forward
he's a killer. That's why I was excited to. Jamie's. I call him a nomad. It was actually the name of his first tuna boat, Nomad. We've known each other a very long time. Been fortunate to hunt with him and stuff, and he's an absolute killer. And shot a really big buck this year in Massachusetts.
Yep.
We'll have to dive into that
my
one.
biggest rack buck ever, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yep.
You want to just jump right into that story? Tell us how you.
Sure.
got that buck?
It's kind of a long story.
That's fine. That's what this is for.
Nice. Nice. So me and Kyle hunt Massachusetts together quite a bit. We've probably been doing that for 5 years or so.
Yeah, I'd say 5 years.
Yeah.
At least.
I've been going down there for over 10 years. I used to go by myself quite a bit, but then me and Kyle started hunting together. We commercial fished together quite a bit too. So Kyle was pretty much down to go camp in a truck and hunt for 2, 3, 4 days at a time down there with me, which most people don't want to do. They want a hotel or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to rough it. So we were down there this year. I think it was mid-December, late December, and our buddy James came with us. And the first day, I don't think I had much going. Kyle got on a buck, and James was driving his truck all over the place, spazzing out like he does. And he's like, oh, it's awesome over there. It's awesome over there. I want to hunt there. I want to hunt behind that swamp right across from camp. And anyways, I think we met up midday, and Kyle had left off on his buck. I think it got into a bunch of other deer and another buck or something.
A bunch of does, and I ended up losing them. And
yeah,
there was another buck in there, and kind of just backed out to regroup, meet up with these guys.
Was that a good one you were on?
We ended up meeting
it was a
up.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, good track.
Yeah.
And so he was like, do you want to come see if you can figure out this track and see where it went? We had a couple hours of daylight left. I'm like, yeah, let's all jump on it. So
all three of us went.
Yep, the three of us. And James is like, he's been hunting for a couple years, and he's got an awesome attitude. He shot his first buck a couple years ago, but I don't think he's done any tracking. So we wanted to kind of break him in on that. So I think I got on the track, and we went up to where it left off and got it sorted. And I think I was leading the way.
Yep, you were leading the way.
And then we had James behind me trying to get him a shot.
I was in the back playing with the camera a little bit.
So you were triple teaming it.
Triple team.
Wow.
Which I think that's the first time I've ever tried
First
that.
time I've ever done that.
Might be
we
the
were
first
more
time
just
ever.
having fun, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's hey, we might have just started something new.
There you go. The old triple team.
The TT.
Yeah, and I don't even double team very much, honestly. Like, me and Kyle had a couple times before that, but really not much.
Yeah, not much. I think a few times when I first started getting back into tracking, so you could, teach me some things and stuff like that. And then, we've been just kind of doing our own thing, hunting the same areas. But
yeah.
Okay, so you guys are triple teaming.
So we're triple teaming it, and we probably went maybe a quarter mile from where we picked the track back up, and we kind of started heading down into a low area. And on the other side of that swampy low area, we could see the road that went through the piece. And then our camp was actually almost in sight, maybe another quarter mile across from us. And as we're coming down there, we're like, all right, he's been messing around in here. He was feeding a little bit, slowing down. We're like, all right, he's probably right down here somewhere. So we're looking, and all of a sudden, I don't remember what happened. I didn't see it. I think you saw it run.
I saw it run. I think James might have saw it.
James definitely saw it, but I think we heard it go. You saw it and told James to take a shot or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So he was trying to line up the shot, and there really wasn't much to shoot at, I don't think. It was like...
I don't think he saw the horns. I saw the horns.
Yeah.
Told him it was a buck to shoot, and by then it was too late for him to shoot.
Yeah. So anyways, that was pretty much the end of that hunt. It was just about dark. We busted the buck out of there, but we'd come down towards the road. He was bedded down on the low ground between us and the road, and then he ran back past us up the hill.
Didn't want to cross the road.
Didn't want to cross the road. He went right back into where he'd come from.
Yep.
So we I think we followed him a little bit and figured he was blowing out of there and called it a day. But I tell that story because then the next day we went out looking for tracks in the morning, and
We didn't see any there yet.
no, yeah, we wanted to
hadn't
check
crossed-
right there because that's where that deer had crossed that road.
The morning before that I tracked.
Yeah.
And he hadn't crossed yet. We did our loop. We actually found a nice track over on the other side of the piece, and then you wanted me to go check again. So I drove back just to check
Oh, that's
again.
right, because we were going to take that one if we didn't find another.
And now it's, we can hunt now. The sun's come up, and there's a fresh track coming across back into the piece. So I go get Jamie.
And it wasn't there before, so now you know.
Wasn't there before.
Now you
Wasn't-
know, and it's him.
Yeah, and it's fresh because
a
I
big
just
track,
drove through
yeah.
there an hour before.
Really big track.
So you guys are getting up at like 3:30 in the morning, and
Probably
Early.
Nah,
4:35ish. We'd get up,
Yeah.
have coffee, breakfast, and
but you're looking early and
Yep.
trying to pick one up from the road.
see if something moved
Yep.
overnight. Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
Well, this year he crossed back in, so I go get Jamie, and we decide we go back and on the track because we know he's in there.
James couldn't go. He had to take off that day, but
Yep, he had to leave. So we ended up getting on the track, and the buck had done just about the same thing as the one I did the morning before. Went down, and we were getting close to where I jumped the deer that was bedded before. And we were going slow, but his bed was bulletproof. I mean, he saw us, heard us coming.
yeah,
And-
Kyle was leading.
Yep.
And we basically followed that same trail that buck had taken us the night before. We come down over that same hill to the same low area in the road, and we're like, all right, he's right
He's
here.
right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're creeping. Kyle was, you were maybe like 10 feet ahead of me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I see the buck get up and take off. I can't see him good. He's 80 yards out, maybe something like that. And he was bedded right at the bottom of the little hill we were coming down.
Real thick in there, too. A bunch of blowdowns, big pine
Yep.
trees and stuff down.
Good
Yeah.
spot for him.
Good spot for him.
Yeah. So I'm like, there he is. I pull up. I'm looking for the shot, and there's nothing. I see a flash here, a flash there. I couldn't identify it, but it looked like big horns.
I don't think we knew.
I could see headgear at that point.
Definitely had horns. I don't think we knew it was as big as it was when we first jumped it.
Yeah.
No, didn't see it good.
Because he's big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he runs
He's
out
wide.
across that low, swampy thing, and then it's open. He goes up a little knoll, and it's open, and then the road. There's like a river, and then the road. And I'm like, I couldn't see over the knoll, so I run to my right along the little side hill we're on to try and see past the knoll because I thought he was going to go across that river. So as I'm running over there, I get maybe 50 yards, and I see a flash like right here, maybe 30 yards from me. I look over, and it's the buck going back behind me now. I'm like, what the heck? That just happened. And then he was gone. Well, it was pretty much, that was over at that point. We went back and saw the track, and he'd been bedded there. He ran up that knoll. When he got on the other side, there was like a berm on the edge of the swamp, and he followed the berm right past me and then just popped out. He was
Up to
running
it right
back
a little
at
bit.
me as I was running sideways. It was nuts.
Isn't it amazing how they seem to have that like sixth sense to know, like, if I run that way, he's going to see me.
Oh yeah,
Like they understand.
I thought
the
I
woods
had
going,
him too.
right?
I thought he was gonna be out in that open.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
They don't get big by being dumb.
Nope.
That's for
You
sure.
know, and not. I want to keep on the story, but you said something that I want to touch upon. You said his bed was bulletproof,
That one wasn't. I don't think it was.
but don't you?
first one?
No, that one wasn't. I don't think.
Don't you think that? I find that the first time a buck beds, like say you pick up a buck track and you're following him, the first bed that he makes, like have you ever followed one where they just like, it seems like they spend all day just looking for the right spot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that first bed sometimes the toughest one to kill him in,
Yeah.
because once you get him going, then the chase is on. And you
Right.
get another
He had his
opportunity.
time to research that one
Yeah.
and make sure everything was just right
Like
for the
obviously
day.
he felt safe there because it's the second time he
Yeah.
picked that general location. So
Yep.
there's something about it.
Different
like,
buck though, right? Don't you think?
Not sure because I didn't get a good look at him the first day.
Hmm.
And then when we jumped him that first time, like, I didn't think he was as wide as he really was. But yeah, I'm not sure. There was a handful of bucks.
Could have been a
that
different
seemed to
buck.
Want
Seemed
to
like
bed in that area.
seemed like the
No
one
kidding.
from the first day wasn't a monster.
Yeah.
So it's a different buck
I think it's a different buck the
from,
second day.
from the second. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was, but
So he ran by you
runs by
on,
me.
on that berm.
Yep. And we went and investigated, figured out what happened, gave him some time. I usually like to give him the halberd half hour the first time we jump him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Kyle got back in the lead on that track.
Yep.
And so the funny thing is, our camp was basically in sight of where he was bedded. We were on the other side of the road,
And James is at camp
maybe
this whole time.
300 yards at the most.
He's
is
just
where our
teasing you
trucks
guys.
were parked from where that deer was bedded. Both days, right? Basically the same
No
spot.
kidding.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So,
He ended up going down. He crossed that first trail.
well, remember he went back across where we'd cut his track, across that little road.
Yep.
And then we were trying to get James to go cover the other crossing. Remember, he's like, "Oh, this spot looks awesome on the other side of the campsite."
Yeah, he wanted to hunt behind
So
the.
we're trying to get
camp.
James to go get on the road over there, and we
He
couldn't
had
get
to
a hold
leave.
of him.
Yeah, he had to leave, I think, and
But the buck ended up crossing right there. It was like it was a river crossing right there, that little dam
Yeah,
thing. We
yeah.
kind of thought he was going there. He went across there. He's still running, crossed the road, and started going up a hill and started walking at that point.
yeah,
And
I think we got up to the top of that.
I think you
hill.
noticed he started feeding as he was
Yeah.
going up that hill.
Yep.
And we were going pretty slow as we came up that hill, and we were looking pretty hard, right?
Yep. And then I spotted him. I don't know, in a hardwood blowdown. I think probably like 70 yards out.
Yep.
Could just see one horn.
Well, you just stopped, and you're like, there he is.
Yeah. Pulled up the gun.
Or you didn't even say anything, but you pulled up the gun. Yeah.
And I was looking, and
I pulled up the gun. I'm looking.
Jamie
I
pulled
couldn't
up.
see anything.
then I think you saw it because I, after I was on him for probably, I don't know, maybe a minute. You could see him now.
Yeah, I was right behind him. I was like looking over his shoulder when he was looking at it, but I was just off to the side and I couldn't see it.
You might have taken another step to the left.
Well, I did. I stepped to the left maybe 2 steps after we've been sitting there a little while already, and you were just lined up on not shooting. I'm like, all right, let's see if I can get around this
Now
tree.
he's looking right at me, and
Is
I
he-
couldn't
is he
see.
bedded,
His,
or
no,
was-
he's just
he was
standing there.
feeding?
Yep, feeding.
top?
He was feeding on the top, a down
see his
tree. Yeah.
rack kind of doing, going up and down, and then he was looking right at me, and I couldn't see his horns anymore. I had a nice neck shot, couldn't see his horns, but you could see him now.
Yeah, so when I stepped to the side, I could see him pretty good. I could see half his head and one horn sticking out from behind the tree that was blocking my view. And he's, I can see the horn going up and down feeding. Meanwhile, Kyle still hasn't shot. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. So he ended up taking one more step out. And now I can see from like his neck and his head half of his neck and his head, and I could see his far shoulder, kind of angling away from me though.
Yep.
So I'm lined up like that for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, something like
Seemed
that,
like
waiting
forever.
to see if Kyle was going to shoot. I didn't want to shoot him out from under him if he had the shot. And then all of a sudden he snapped his head up and he's looking right at one of us. I didn't know if he's looking at me or Kyle or what, but now he's looking right at us. I've got this like halfway decent shot, 75 yards.
Time to shoot.
Yeah. And I didn't feel good about it though, because it's like pretty small target. I was trying not to hit the tree and still catch like
Were you using the magic?
somewhere center of mass on his chest.
Did you have the magic bullets?
Muzzleloader.
Muzzleloader.
Yeah,
See, if you had
muzzleloader.
Ryan's
I got-
magic bullets,
I got
you could
one-
have shot in the other direction.
I know, right? No, got one shot. Yep. So I ended up shooting probably within a few seconds of him snapping his head over.
When Jamie shot, it was the deer that I was looking at. I just couldn't, he was looking right at me, so I couldn't see his horns.
Yep.
After he shoots, he kind of comes at us a little bit. I think he dropped 2 or 3 times,
Yeah, he took
crashed
off.
a couple times.
He was like angled toward us, 1/4 when I shot, and he just kind of didn't jump real hard. He like
kept going
moved
that
towards
direction.
us, kind of 1/4, but he was kind of stumbling or something. Couldn't really tell. So it looked like I hit him.
Yeah. And then I shot, and I wasn't sure if I hit him or not, but I knew Jamie hit him. And I think we waited there for 15, 20 minutes or so.
Yep.
Walked over to where he's standing.
He kind of staggered and stumbled, and then he started loping. He kind of went back by us. He didn't know where we were,
No.
and headed back down that hill that we'd come up. Yep. So yeah, then we went over and looked, saw where he'd fallen down a couple times, found a couple of drops of blood,
Little bit of
maybe
hair.
50 yards out, some hair.
Wow.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe he wasn't right there after falling down a couple times.
Right.
Yeah. And then
And especially I hit him kind of head on, so
Wow.
that bullet went right down into right
and he
through.
ended up going, there's more to the story, right? He ended
Oh
up going
yeah,
for
that
a
was the
little-
beginning of the
that
day.
was just the
That was-
start of the day.
Oh,
'cause
that
I
was
still
the
got, what,
start.
Oh, it's
7
just
miles
begun.
after that?
Yeah, that was the beginning of the day. We'd probably gone like less than a mile the whole day at that point.
Now you got him leaking and you're back on the track.
He's leaking a little bit. We don't know how good he's hit.
Yeah.
And we're kind of sneaking on it. We figure he might be down, bedded somewhere close right
Right.
there.
We're headed back down towards camp now.
Yep.
Yep.
And you're going slow on him because you think he could be right there. You don't
Yep.
know how bad he's hit.
Yeah.
Yep. And maybe within 200 yards.
Found where he fell again. Some good blood on like a log, I think.
Yep. Wow. And we were looking at that, and then Kyle's like, there he is.
He was right there to the left, 30 yards away,
Oh.
just standing there. And when I said that, he took off, and we couldn't get on him fast enough.
Yeah, I'm sure he's watching us walk up to that area, and yeah, he blew out of there. And then so we kind of like we're playing the game of trying to catch up to him without spooking him and seeing if he was bedded or whatever, and we ended up jumping him maybe 2 or 3 more times over
Couple miles.
3 miles,
probably,
2 or 3
yeah.
miles up and
And
over a mountain.
is he rebedding every time?
He's
trying to lay
rebedding,
down?
but
Yeah.
he's like he's running big jumps, and then
I think he did a big half
setting us
circle.
up every time. He's setting us up on vantage points.
So he's still got his wits about
Oh,
him.
big time.
Yeah.
And we're wondering like how good he's hit because he's not
Not bleeding too much, just
Not
specks
bleeding
here
much.
and there.
Well, there was no exit, probably, right?
no exit. Ended up being no. It went right down
Yep.
into him.
That one bed, he ends up, he heads down toward camp. We saw him there. Then he does like a big half circle and beds a few times. When we got back up on top of the mountain, he bedded again, and he bled pretty good in that bed.
So we knew he was hit good.
We knew
then.
he was hit pretty good then. But we were up in the mountain, Laurel, and
Yep.
I don't think we thought we were going to get a chance to see him in that, so we kind of started going fast.
Oh yeah.
And he was right there in the mountain, Laurel. He let us walk right up to him in the mountain, Laurel.
I think
No,
they feel
I-
safe in that stuff.
I kind of did that on purpose. I think I was leading the way at that
Yeah,
point,
you
and
were-
we were
yeah.
coming. It was like kind of frozen in Mount Laurel in the snow. That stuff is never quiet, anyways.
No.
So I was like, all right, maybe
Skip
if we
through
just
this.
go right at him as hard as we can,
Yep.
we'll bump into him, get him a shot, and we almost did.
Yeah.
I saw him go just for a second. I think you saw
I
a
ran
flash
up on a
of him.
rock and just
He
saw
was
a flash. of
20
him.
yards out when we jumped him that time, but I tried running to cut him off coming out of it. I couldn't move fast enough. But that was like right on top of that mountain ridge.
Yep.
And he started working his way down this huge ridge.
On the back side of it.
Yep, the back side of where he'd come up. And we were going pretty quick at that point. It was like open hardwoods over there.
We're running out of time, too, at this point.
Oh,
It's starting
yeah.
to get late.
Yeah, it's probably 2, 3 o'clock at that point.
I think after we saw all the blood in the bed up on top, we were like, let's,
Put
keep
some
Time
going
to,
on,
time to
try
go.
keep 'em-
yeah.
yeah.
You start saying to yourself, like, it's like my buck this year, same thing. It's like, I can't believe I'm going to run out of daylight if I don't,
Yeah.
When is it going to happen? You keep jumping them, and they're so smart, even when they're hurt.
So smart. Yeah.
Well, we went down that back side, and we got him in a big boulder field, right? And he was having a hard time navigating that
Yeah,
boulder
he
field.
did. We went down most of that ridge. We probably lost like 500 feet of elevation, something like that. And at the bottom of it, he started slowing his pace he was walking now, and he wasn't doing his run thing.
Zigzags, didn't kind of know where, he didn't know where he wanted
You guys
to go.
are pushing them good. Yep.
Yeah. And we were getting almost to like the end of the piece where it comes out to more roads and houses and stuff. He ended up taking a left and going side hilling back at the bottom of that ridge that we'd come over. And like Kyle said, we got into this wicked boulder field, and he was having trouble going through it. We saw him.
He was right beside a big rock, and I could see him. Jamie was on the left side, and I was going to have him go around the left side so he could get a shot. And the deer's just standing there. He ends up coming back, gets in front of me, and you didn't shoot then. I don't think he took off, right?
I don't
You
remember
didn't have
that
a
one.
shot then. He took off.
I remember when I shot at his spine when he was behind that rock. Remember that?
So maybe you did shoot then.
Yeah, I shot
Yeah.
then. We saw him at maybe like 50 yards, and he was like
Leaning up against a rock or something.
He was. What I saw was him walking, and I could see him staggering like that. And it was a makeable shot, but I had like 2 inches of his spine to shoot at over the ledge in front of me. I took the shot, didn't hit him. But then we were going as fast as
seeing
we
him,
could through
yeah.
those boulders at that point, trying to, because
He couldn't go far.
he wasn't navigating too good. He was probably dizzy. I don't know, from blood loss, but
The next time he's standing, I think 75, 80 yards out broadside. You got up leaned up against a tree, I think, right, to steady yourself?
yep, I seen him. I think it was probably 100 yards out, and I could see from like his shoulder to his ass end behind a tree. But that part was in the open. And I'm like 100 yards out after just running like 5 miles or whatever. I didn't feel great about the shot, and it was getting dark. I wanted to kill him, and he didn't know we were there. Or if he did, he was hiding from us, like just frozen, right?
Yeah.
So I walked up maybe 5 or 10 feet. There was this little sapling in front of me and steadied my shot on that. Kyle got beside me. I'm like, wait, just let me steady this shot, right?
Yep. At that point, I was
wanna miss
waiting. I was
again.
waiting for you to shoot.
Yeah.
Nah.
So I got lined up on it, and pretty sure I hit him that
Yeah.
time. A little bit of a paunch, but
Yep.
the rib cage too. Yeah. Kyle took a shot.
Yep. You shot. I shot.
Shot right after I did.
Yep. We reloaded and sat there for a minute, and then we walked over and found where he was standing. Found some hair, some blood. We knew we hit him again. And probably about 10 yards ahead of us, there was a good-sized rock on the left side. Jamie just clears that rock. I clear it, look over. I see a buck standing there. There he is. I pull up, shoot, and the deer drops. All 4 legs are up in the air, and I'm like, oh, I got him.
Yeah. I got him.
I reload, sit
So
there
crazy.
for a minute. And I see the deer down. He's down. So we keep walking. We're on the tracks. You know, the deer we've been tracking all day. Jamie's walking, and I keep looking to the left. I'm like, that deer I just shot's over to the left.
Meanwhile, we're following the tracks this
Yeah,
way.
and Jamie's going, where are we going? Like, the buck's right there.
Yeah.
He's saying it.
Yeah.
Jamie
Craig,
keeps
he's gotta
going
be
straight,
right
and
over
I'm
here.
looking
Right.
over. I'm like, I think he's over to the left. And he's like, no, he's right there in front of us. And we look, and there's a deer laying there. And I'm like, oh, I saw legs up in the air. He was just laying there. And, yeah, so we sat there, for, I don't know, a little while. We couldn't
The
shoot.
deer,
He
it
up
was
against
weird.
a
He was
rock.
up against like a boulder, and we couldn't see his head. It was behind a tree, and we didn't want to we were only 10 yards from him. We didn't want him to jump up again, and we didn't want to take the shot into all the rocks right there.
Yeah.
So it looked like he was just about dead. So we were kind of sitting there for maybe 10 minutes, just like kind of waiting for him to die. Right?
Stressful 10 minutes.
Yeah. It was awkward, and like you didn't want to sit there and watch him suffer, but at the same time,
You don't want to keep pushing.
didn't want to jump him up and
Didn't want to take a
that
bad
being
shot
that
in the
close to him
rocks.
into all those rocks. It
Yeah.
was weird, but I think finally we got a little closer. He ended up jumping up,
Yeah.
and Kyle shot him pretty much point blank,
Yeah.
dropped him right there.
Finished
He did
him
end up
off.
jumping up.
Yeah,
jumped
did.
up,
He
yeah.
did jump up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough critter.
Yeah, couldn't believe it. Yeah, so he was down.
We walk over and we're looking at him, and I think you looked to the left and saw legs up in the air, and well, there was a buck that I had just shot.
Maybe 10 yards apart. Maybe.
Yeah,
So-
10
so
yards
crazy.
apart.
Right there.
And that was a pretty good buck, too.
Yeah, pretty good buck. He was a 10-pointer, not real wide, but kind of had some
Non-typical for sure.
non-typical. Yeah.
Dude, that is the
Obviously.
craziest story I think I've ever heard.
It was not. We were both sitting there like,
What the
did that
heck?
just happen?
We
I
just
was
shot
like,
two
And
mature
what
whitetails, tracking, double teaming one.
and they weren't together. I
No,
mean, like,
just
we've
random.
been tracking that buck for 5 or 6 miles at that point.
Right.
It's just random that he bumped into
That
that
is
other
so
buck
cool.
right there.
So how big was yours? What did he score?
He scored 151 rough score.
that's a
yeah,
beauty.
yeah,
yeah,
gross
we'll,
rough.
we'll definitely we'll put some pictures up on Northwoods Whitetails,
Yep.
and hopefully we'll have some content for you guys of the hunt, because Kyle, you filmed a little bit, right?
Yeah, I got some footage. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. So you guys look for that.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
did yours score as well? Did you score
I
yours?
haven't scored mine.
No.
Not sure what it would score.
Yeah, it wasn't a real high score, I would
yeah.
say, but mature
Still
buck.
a nice
Yeah.
buck.
Yeah.
anyway.
10 point.
Yeah.
Any
Wasn't
I mean-
a real racker, but a real nice buck.
10 points on him. You think about how many 10 pointers have you killed?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
Do you guys take a bunch of really cool photos with both of you in the woods with them?
Yep.
Yeah, I set up
Yeah.
my camera. We took some footage with the camera, us holding them up, and took some pictures. I think we got some nice pictures when we got back home too.
That's cool. You
Yeah.
won't do that very many times.
No,
That's
we were
unreal.
like, that's not
a once in a lifetimer right there.
Then the fun began. We had, 9-mile hike back to the truck, I think.
I don't know if it
Go
was
get
that
the
far,
truck.
but it was probably like 6. Yeah, it was far.
On
over
both.
That's long
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
I think we made it just a little bit after dark.
Would
to get
you do?
back.
You hike back, get the rig, and come back around because you were close
Yeah,
to a road, right?
Yeah, because we would have had to go uphill for
Right.
a mile.
There was
Yeah.
no drag.
It wasn't. We weren't getting out that way.
And you didn't feel like sleeping in the woods next to him?
Not that time.
not
that time?
No, I wasn't worried about mountain lions anymore.
Yeah.
Eating my kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a story that's happened, by the way, Isaac.
You've done that?
That buck, I spent the night out there with him because
Which one?
that one actually was off that same ridge that we went over. That one's a 145, but it was bare ground, frozen ground, hard, and I dragged for a couple hours. It was like 10 o'clock at night at that point. It
What state?
was Massachusetts.
Oh, that was Mass?
Yeah.
Yep.
Same
area.
spot.
Gotcha.
Yep. And I didn't really know Massachusetts when I first started hunting, and I was seeing all these big paw tracks in the snow. Not that trip, but earlier. And I thought they were mountain lion because I seen them walking up on top of logs and stuff.
Yep.
Turned out they were bears. I figured
Yep.
out later on. But at
Yep.
that time, I'm like, man, this place is loaded with mountain lions. They're going to eat this thing if I leave it here tonight.
Yep.
So I did. I walked back to my truck. It was less than a mile. I got my Coleman lantern and my sleeping bag. And I just let that thing burn half the night. Slept there.
Yep.
And
Wow.
Remember when I
dragged them out in
said?
the morning.
Remember when I called him the Nomad?
Yeah.
Is it starting to come together?
Yeah.
Listen, there's going to be a lot more stories that we're going to share. That
Yeah.
by the end of it, if you don't think he's a nomad, then
No, I mean I can tell. All right. So what do you guys do for work?
Commercial fishing. I do charters. Kyle's straight commercial.
Yeah, I drag and commercial tuna fish. I catch
Really?
haddock, cod, squid.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
he does it all. I just tuna fish and haddock charters, tuna charters.
So that's seasonal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then we
And
take the falls off.
so that helps for
Hunt.
hunting.
Yeah.
Definitely. It used to not help for hunting because the big tuna season would be like September, October, November.
Really.
So back in those days, I still got to track. I'd get the late season, but
Yep.
early season was pretty much not happening for me. But since the show, Wicked Tuna got so popular and everybody tuna fishes so much now, the season gets shut down pretty much halfway through September's pretty much the end of it. You get a few more days in October and maybe November, but I just
Last
haul
year
the
there
boat
was
out.
no
I just
November.
haul out in October now, and
So in a way, the Googans are helping you.
Deer
yeah,
wise.
yep, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's okay with me because these days, I mean, deer hunting's pretty much my favorite thing to do.
Yep. No.
Yep.
I get
At least in the fall, it is.
I've been tuna fishing with Jamie a bunch of times, and it's an absolute blast. But I always say it, same thing. Like, if you made me pick one, it's gonna be hunting every time.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
We've had some fun together. Remember the first time you and I? It was in your Nomad boat.
Yep.
We went out. Ryan was so mad. Ryan Bonner, a good friend of ours. We went out and we caught one. It was like an 80-something incher, and then he's like, just throw another bait out. 2 seconds later, we're tight again. We ended up losing that one, but that was a blast.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll leave a link to your charter business too if anybody wants to hook up with one of the best on the ocean.
Yeah.
Give
Awesome.
these guys a call.
Awesome.
They'll put you on the tuna and the haddock, whatever else you're looking for.
Yep. Yeah, it's cool. We're like definitely best friends. Tuna fishing, like more than friends. We work together. We
Yeah.
share
Fish
intel.
together all summer.
And it
That's
helps big time. Like
Yep.
if you have a person out there you can trust and work together like that.
And you guys click. Like
Oh yeah, he lives right down the road.
Right.
We both kind of moved up here maybe 15, 20 years ago or so. We're from southern New Hampshire, but
Cool.
Yeah.
we figured out that we both lived in the same town
same
and
stuff.
both did the same stuff. And
Yep.
yeah, we've been
Pretty much the
partners
same, but
ever
the
since.
age difference.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I'm a couple years older, but yeah, works good. So this year hunting together. I mean, we hunt together every year, but when we started tracking together, it was like, holy shit, this works really good. We're doing it together too.
We
Yeah,
see deer
'cause-
alone tracking, but it just seemed like when we got together tracking, it was a lot easier. Like we were, instead of sometimes you take a track, you don't catch up to that deer, you don't see it, or I felt like when we were together, we were pretty much unstoppable.
More
We're seeing 'em every
camaraderie, too,
time,
right?
you
Like
know?
you're-
It's
push
way
yourselves
more
and stuff.
fun for
Yeah.
one thing, and like more than that, for me, like
feeding on
I
each
got
other.
ADD, ABCD, like
Like
Travis says, like I have a hard time focusing on anything for more than half an hour, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if I got Kyle there with me, I'm just more in the game and I can keep my focus. And if I lose it, he's probably paying attention when I'm not.
Yeah.
Definitely helps me a lot.
Valid.
And this was pretty much the first time we double teamed a buck and had success.
Yeah.
But we went and did it the next day? We tracked that other one? Was it a few days
We ended
later?
up leaving after we shot these 2 deer. We came home. Then we went back, and the first day we went back, we got on another deer.
Yep.
And
Yep. And when I said this is a long story, like this is kind of the end of that story.
Yep.
Same scenario, right?
yeah,
Crossed the same road, went down to the same first bed, down in the low area by the swamp, across from our campsite.
yeah,
We ended up jumping it out of there. Oh, I got on that one, right?
got
We were
on
trying to
that
meet
one.
in there. We got screwed up. I ended up
Little
chasing him across the
miscommunication, I
road,
think.
and you'd gone in there looking for me. You didn't find me.
yeah,
There was so many tracks at that point.
yeah.
But I went back to camp and got him, and we got back on the track together. And I was on the lead on that track, and we made it up that first hill, and we kind of knew he was going to be bedded up where he was. Kyle had marked a bed he'd seen in there
Yeah,
the year
I-
before.
Yeah, right at the start of like the mountain laurel. And
Now,
stuff.
was he like feeding, or was there any indications on the track that he was going to bed there? Or are you just going off the intel, making you think he's going to bed there?
Yep, nope, there was indication. So I had an idea that this buck only had one horn because I'd seen where he'd been feeding down below. And, oh, wait, I didn't even jump him down there.
I think you jumped him across the street.
I jumped him across. Okay.
Yeah.
He'd been feeding, and I saw his horn mark only on one side at one point. So I'm
Yep.
like, I know he's a buck, Kyle, but He might have one horn, I'm not sure, but it was a good track.
And it was late in the afternoon and first day back, so we figured, well, we'll go take it.
Yeah.
And he did. He crossed that road running, and then as soon as he got across it, he stopped running, went to a walk.
Yeah. And he was going
Nipped.
straight uphill.
He's going straight uphill, and then he was nipping some buds as he got up towards that mountain laurel patch, right?
Yeah.
Nipping a few buds. We knew he was feeding a little bit.
Yep.
And it seemed like where he only ran for maybe a couple hundred yards and then went to a walk, we kind of figured he was going to bed anyways. And we were coming up, I guess it was an east-facing ridge, and we had the west wind coming over the top, and then you had like a patch of mountain laurel halfway down, third of the way down that hill. So we were like, this is a prime place for him to bed.
Yeah.
We already know that they bed right there. So we were definitely on point the whole way. And it was pretty quiet, like no wind.
Yeah.
Snow was a little loud, and we were going super duper slow.
Really slow.
And we were working through that mountain laurel,
Yep.
which it's so loud, like you can't get through it quietly.
Yeah.
But we were inching, and
I think you saw him.
I saw him. I look up. There's a little shelf above me in the laurel, and I saw a stick move like this, but it was like shining in the sun a little bit. And then I see it again. I'm like, what the? So I pulled the scope up, and it's only 20 yards from me, and it was tines. I could see the deer's head sideways, and I could see two big tines, like probably 10-inch tines, and the main beam. And I had a headshot on it, but I'm like, something's weird here. I didn't, at that time, it wasn't clicking in my head, but I think he only had one horn, and I was seeing that front side because I was like, where's the rest of it? But it wasn't clicking in my head at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm pulled up,
I see the
scoping him
deer
out,
now
and
'cause
I was
Jamie's
ahead
on.
of you.
Yeah.
It's probably like 5 or 10 feet ahead of you.
Yeah.
You were off to my side a little bit. So now you're looking at him,
Yeah.
and we're sitting there forever, maybe 5 minutes.
Maybe 5 minutes.
Yep. Yep. Like my arms got tired from looking at it. And I didn't have a clean shot at his body. I figured out he was bedded, but I couldn't see below his head. I didn't know if there was a rock or I was like, the land was right there. I didn't know what I had to shoot at.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure I wanted to shoot him with one horn if that's, but I couldn't tell for sure that's what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
But you could see his head pretty good.
I had a good view of, I could see
Or
his
his neck,
rack,
right?
I could see his ear, and the start of his neck. I didn't have the scope that day. I had the ghost ring and fire sight. I ended up just putting it right below his ear and touched it off, and he wasn't too spooked when he ran. Remember, they took off. They didn't really run.
Ended up there was 2 bucks
there's
bedded
2 bucks
together
there.
right there.
Of course.
and a doe.
Yeah.
$2 in a doe, bedded
Yeah.
right there.
All in a line from me too. Like I might have hit any one of those deer if I'd fired through there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up hitting him, and we went over where they were bedded down, some hair, some blood, and we tracked him till just before sunset, and I think we jumped him one more time, and he was bleeding pretty good all the way till then, and I think we picked up the track the next morning, and he stopped bleeding from right where we left off.
Yeah, that was the last blood right there.
We tracked him all day long. Some guy had gotten on him, followed him for, a mile or something. He gave up.
Yep.
We tracked him through, I think, 3 or 4 beds that day. And then we finally saw him in the afternoon, and he was completely fine all day. He was feeding, bedding.
Yeah.
Might have given him a racing stripe or something.
Yeah.
We kind
I
of
think
figured
so.
he hit him like low on the neck, on the top of the neck or something like
Yeah.
that.
Just cut a chunk.
Because there
off.
was a lot of blood, not a lot of blood, a lot of hair at the shot.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
We
But,
ended up seeing him once that afternoon.
Yep.
Should have had him there. Remember
Should have
that?
had him. He was standing down.
I saw him. It was like coming over a ridge, and everything was covered in
whips, I think.
snow. Like
Yeah.
the whips and everything were just caked in snow where the wind had been pushing the snow into that ridge. And so everything was like pretty white.
Yeah.
And I saw a dark patch down by a dark hemlock tree, maybe 80 yards out or something.
Yeah.
and I'm looking at it. I'm
Pulled
like,
up and scoped it.
Pulled up the scope.
Yep.
I'm like, it's
That's
just a
not a
stump.
deer. And I'm looking over his shoulder. I got pull up my gun. I see him take his down. I'm like, yeah, it's not a deer. Well, there he goes.
Yeah, we
There's
take like
him.
2
I've
more
done that.
steps.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
That was the end of that deer for us. But I just told that story because it was cool to see how good we could do, like working together,
Double
getting
teaming,
opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, I do a little bit with my buddy Mark, and like you'd mentioned, two different personalities, two different views on, and you learn from each other.
Big
like,
time.
For sure.
Like he like looks at it a different way than I look at it, and then between the two, I just think it's twice the brain power and twice
Yeah.
the sensories and
Right.
Yeah.
and it's like sometimes you may feel like giving up, frustrated,
Yep.
but the other guy's not, and he's like, no,
Yeah, and that motivates you to keep going.
motivate you to keep
Get you
going.
back into it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of. I think that's the same.
It's
for
definitely
us.
more fun.
Oh, it's a blast.
Definitely
Yeah,
more
I love
fun.
it.
And I've been kind of not against it, but I always wanted to do my own thing for years.
Yeah.
But my attitude's definitely changed now. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get a good buddy to do it with, it's
Yep.
Yeah,
it's
you work
definitely
well.
dangerous.
Yep.
Especially if you have somebody, like the way I like to do it with my buddies is I'll have somebody like setting the pace and, reading the track. And then the guy in the back's just got his head up.
For sure.
Just, staying like 5-10 feet back and just scanning.
Yeah.
Because, if you have that guy setting the pace and, reading the track and all that, and then the guy in the back doesn't have to think about anything but where's the deer.
Right.
And it's a pretty dangerous combo,
Yeah. For sure.
Do you think being fishermen professionally helps with deer hunting? Like your mindset of working in the ocean, which is like this the most vast thing on the planet.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of does that help?
I think it does, kind of indirectly, because I was trying to think about that, if there was any good comparisons to tuna fishing and deer hunting, and I wasn't coming up with a lot just because everything's underwater, and then when you're hunting, you can touch and see everything that's happening. So it was hard to compare that, but definitely staying on the fresh sign, fresh intel, and going off what you're seeing, as close to real time as you can.
Right.
That's huge,
Well, tuna fishing, I mean, you guys, you're not hunting, but you're hunting for something.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. And I think I know a couple other good trackers that are fishermen on the ocean, and I think it does help you guys because you're not afraid to move at all.
No.
If something's not there,
Or change what you're doing.
you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys always have to be in that mindset. Whereas other people that do, in the trades or, sell boats, you're not in that mindset of okay, where's the sign at? Where's the deer at? Where are the fish at?
Yeah.
I think it does give you guys an edge.
I do. And when you're tuna fishing, you have to have confidence in what you're doing.
Yep.
And if you don't have confidence in what you're doing, you're going to change what you're doing, or like you said, go somewhere else.
Yep.
And you're going to keep doing that until you feel confident again based
Exactly.
on what you're seeing, which
Right.
that definitely is the same with deer hunting.
Right. Or
That's a key to success is
right.
you're confident that you're in the game
Right.
with what you're doing in the woods that day.
And tracking specifically. Probably should have said that. Tracking specifically, I think it helps you guys. Maybe not if you were just to go sit on a ridge all the time. It wouldn't help you,
yeah.
But tracking is such a nomadic sport, really.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be good at it, you have to be able to move sometimes 100 miles in a day, to find that buck
Right.
crossing the road, or,
Right.
Not settling on something that's subpar, so.
Yep.
I think the other thing with fishing is the mental fortitude and the perseverance, right? Because when you're tuna fishing, there's just days lost at sea that you don't even mark a fish,
Right.
and to do that the next day is mentally difficult. And to have the perseverance, and just like tracking a buck, right?
never give up.
Everybody sitting in this room's tracked a buck all day and never even saw him.
Right. Multiple times.
Oh yeah.
But then you'll get up and do it again the next morning. And it's the drive, the perseverance, right? And it's the mental fortitude to continue, and no matter what, I mean, you're injured, you're still going to fish,
Right.
you're still going to hunt. You just push through.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the guys that are able to push through and be, persevere are the ones that shoot the real big bucks and
Yeah.
have a good season.
Can't ever give up. That's for sure.
How many bucks did you shoot this year, Jamie?
I only got 2.
And one was Mass, one was New Hampshire.
Yep.
What was the New Hampshire buck?
I got a 206 in New Hampshire, nice 8-pointer.
Wow.
Yep.
Nice heavy one, huh?
Opening day
Yep.
muzzleloader, right? Might
Pretty
have been opening day.
might have been, yeah.
And didn't you shoot a big one with your bow this year?
I didn't get one with my bow. I got one nice one, rifle season in New Hampshire, 10-pointer.
Nice.
And then I got a 8-pointer up in Maine, and then the 10-pointer down in Mass.
Oh, you had a good year,
Little
huh?
killing spree.
He
Probably one of
shot
my
all
best
those
years.
within a week too.
Wow. When you're
Maybe
hot, you're
within
hot, right?
3 or
Right.
4 days.
Well, I was
Yeah.
looking on Facebook and I was confused because I'm like, wait a minute, what buck's this?
Yeah.
And I finally put together, I'm like, oh, he killed another one somewhere.
Yeah, he
was
shot
on a
those
streak.
3, and then he helped me kill that one too.
Yeah.
All,
How many-
all within
And
maybe
almost had one
maybe
the next
4
time.
days. I think that all happened.
How many
United
did you?
States.
How many of you shot over 200 total?
2.
2.
Last 2 years, I
Yeah.
got 2. Yeah.
So you going last year and this year?
Yep.
And all these other bucks didn't weigh 2?
No, definitely some mature bucks in there.
Oh, God,
it's
Definitely
hard.
mature bucks, but
It's hard to make that 200
and you
pounder,
know,
yeah.
Well, yeah.
I think what I figured out is if you want to shoot 200s, you got to hunt earlier in the
Oh,
season.
yeah. 100%.
Because in Massachusetts, good luck shooting a 200-pounder in December. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but
Right.
most of those deer are
I don't think-
150, 160 pounds, and they were 200-pounders.
Yeah.
probably.
Maybe. I think down there they're lighter, though, in general.
Yep.
I think just the lack of the winter, they don't have to be as big,
Right.
I still think they get, like, big feet and stuff when they're mature, but I just don't know if you're
The
going to get a lot of...
Berkshire winter, though, like, it's pretty comparable to here.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I mean, with the elevation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we were down there, we had, it was December. There was 3 feet of snow.
Right, yeah.
So they get some rugged winters.
I hear people say Massachusetts, they have small feet down here, which you will find big rack bucks with small feet down there, but you still see the big, huge tracks too.
Yep.
Like that one, the 10-pointer I got this year had a 4-finger track all day. I mean, it was a big track, big, heavy dew claws, and he weighed 182.
In December.
End of December.
Oh, so
he was a 200-pounder.
What's it called?
Four-finger humdinger?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he was 200 for sure then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a giant.
But most of the mature bucks I've shot down there, they weigh like 140 to 160
Right.
in end of December.
Yeah. So I live in the Taconic Range, which is in southern Vermont, and it's kind of pretty much right in line with the Berkshires. And like right around my area in southern Vermont, a big mature buck, even in bow season, a lot of times will be around 170, 165.
No kidding.
Yeah, even, it's just, I think it's a lot to do with, maybe, I don't know. It just seems that's what mature ones are, but there's outliers, obviously. There's some big ones too, but I think it's something to do with the farther north you go, the bigger the bodies get.
For sure.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and when you go up to northern Maine, I mean, some of the tracks I've seen up there are just like
like a little moose.
it's like I've seen big buck tracks.
Medium
and
moose.
You go up there, and you got to make sure you're not getting on a little one because it's a 180-pound track, but it's only 2.5-year-old. Those bucks get real big up there. I mean, every year they shoot them in the 260s, 270s.
Oh, I know. That's such a big deer.
It's crazy.
How many 200-pounders have you killed, Kyle?
I got one 200-pounder. The one I got with my bow, 2 years ago, should have been 200 pounds. It was close. It was 199.6, I think. And
Yep.
I dressed it a little bit cleaner than what I had to.
I know. I hear you.
I make that mistake every year.
I do
I see
too,
how
yeah.
some of these guys dress their deer.
Well, apparently
like-
you can leave the balls on them.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I
I do
took
that.
off. I mean, I
I always cut them off.
I do too.
think we thought for sure it was well over 200. Get to the scale, it was 199.6. I'm like, oh, man, it's close.
Get to the next scale.
Yeah,
It was
went to the next scale, I was like-
199.8 or something.
Yeah, I brought it home,
One
weighed
more.
it downtown. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I see a guy checking his deer this year, and I'll leave the name off because we all know him. But the incision to gut the deer is like this big. It's crazy. It's like microscopic surgery, telescopic. You know what I mean?
It's too
But
funny.
you know, if it's gutted, it's gutted. Yeah, I shot that one in Maine. It was 198 point something. And
Yep.
the guy's checking in the deer. He's like, "Where's the heart?" Because I leave the heart and lungs in them because I want to eat the heart. I love deer heart.
Yeah.
And when I get to the rig, before I put him on the scale, I cut it out. So I just cutting it out, and it was laying in the jet sled, and he threw it in there, and it was a little over 2 when he threw it in. He's like, "All right, you're fine. We're gonna that's a patch buck." I'm like, No, it's not, because it doesn't. It's not as special if it's not real.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Ryan when he went out to Canada. The guys were like, "Oh yeah, that buck's 230 all day long." He's like, "Well, we didn't weigh it, so we have no idea." So they weighed it, and it was like 180 something.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and not taking anything away from any deer that weighs 180 pounds. The biggest buck I've ever shot rack wise was 177.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's a big buck.
it's a big.
funny.
It's
People get so
Yeah,
fixated on
honestly,
the number.
I mean, I want 200 pounders like everybody else, but
100%. Yep.
I'm pretty much happy with any like mature buck that if I think that's an old deer, that's what I'm looking for.
Right.
It's actually it's such a funny thing that we do, because the difference between 185-pound buck and a 200-pound buck dressed is so minimal.
And what week of the hunting season did you shoot it?
And what terrain does he live in? You
it's
know what I
just-
mean? Like
it's
those
just
mountain
a
bucks, I feel
funny-
like
it's a funny thing, man.
I feel like some of those ridge runners just don't weigh up because they're running all the time. They're all they're like MMA fighters. You know, they're all muscle. They're
Yep.
got 2% body fat, and they're
Yeah.
the king of the woods.
I
You
think
know,
it's a lot. Every deer is different, just like
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
You know, you got some that are big, and it's because their dad was big, and their dad's dad was big, and,
Yep.
and then you have some that are little because
Yep.
their dad was little, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. But
but it's not going to stop me from trying to kill 200 pounders. Don't get me wrong, but
No, the bigger the better.
for me, it's, and we were just talking about this before we went on. For me, it's like the thrill of not knowing. Like when you see that buck track,
Yep.
the entire time you're trying to pick up clues, you're trying to look for antler marks, you're looking to the side of his
Seeing
bed,
what he goes through.
right? And
Yeah.
your brain is you're creating like this,
imagination,
right?
going
like,
crazy.
yeah. And when you finally catch up to him, and like with that one, when you saw him on the ground, you must have been like,
Oh yeah, I couldn't believe how
Blown
big
away.
it was.
Think
Like
when he
when
was-
I took the first shot at it, I could see it was a wide 10-pointer. I could see that,
Yeah,
but I didn't think it was that big.
yeah,
that's a giant, man.
that's awesome. No ground shrinkage there.
No.
So, what would you say got you into tracking?
Hal blood, I would say, because I hunted like I probably started hunting when I was 14 or 15. Shot deer when I was 16, and shot like 40 or 50 does over the next 15 years. We used to do a lot of drives, and I'd shoot most of my deer on driving. And I think I was 30 before I shot my first buck, and I just was never able to sit still. So once I didn't really know what tracking was until that point. And then I saw Hal Blood's book and was like, this is for me. Like, you can follow deer around all day and read their tracks, and you don't have to sit there and wait for them or do drives or anything. I'm in. And I pretty much, I don't know, it totally appealed to me.
Yep.
Just being mobile, being able to move around the woods and see the woods while you're hunting.
Right.
I never was a stand guy back then. I am more now than I ever have been, just because I want to hunt more in the early season. But
Yep.
I used to wait before I was a commercial fisherman. Back in my early 30s, I guess I'd wait until like halfway through gun season, and then I'd start hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I liked being out in the snow and the cold, and I wasn't tracking at that point, but I just always felt like I had better luck seeing big bucks late season.
Yeah.
Which to this day I still feel is true. Like
Oh yeah.
the big ones come out around Thanksgiving.
Yep.
That's seems like the best time to catch a big one on his feet during
Mm-hmm.
daylight.
Looking for a hot doe.
Yep. Looking for love.
Yep.
Yeah. So Jamie came up to camp there. What year was that? It was 2014 when you shot the big 9?
Yeah, probably somewhere around there.
I'll say it
Not
was
sure
2014.
exactly.
But he came up to camp, and one morning I get up, and we're all getting ready to go hunting and load up our stuff. It was before dark. I mean, not before light. Jamie's like, hey, he had old T100 at that time. He's like, hey, can you give me a jump? I'm like, dude, we're going out in the middle of the rhubarb and his starter was acting up on him. And again, the nomad, he's like, it's fine. I gotta, if I get stuck out there, I'll just sleep in the back of the truck. I got a sleeping bag. So it wasn't, I don't know. It was like 2 nights later, and he'd said to me, listen, if I don't come back, we already said he hiked back and slept with a deer one time. Like he's
You'd be all right.
Sure enough, he didn't come. You'd shot your 9-pointer already.
Yep, and I was trying. I wanted to get into Maine hiking from New Hampshire because to drive over there is forever. And
Right.
we were pretty close to the border, but you had to hike in. And I was like, where should I go? And you're like, oh yeah, drive up the end of this little spur road.
Yeah.
Hike around this mountain to the backside, and it's nice over there. You'll be in Maine. So I did it, and I was like, yeah, this is cool.
And you had a tag over there?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, had a Maine tag.
Yep.
Maine rifle. So I'm in there all day. I didn't really cut the track I was looking for, so I saw some tracks and got towards the end of the day. I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here. Well, I'm going to go around the south side of the mountain to get back to the truck instead of going back around the north side the way I came in. So what I didn't realize is that was like the leeward side of the mountain, and all the snow had piled like 4 feet deep over there. Oh, man.
We had a lot of snow.
Plus, it was like one of those hell holes of like spruce mixed with like deep swamp, and it took me forever to get through there. It was after dark. I was still in Maine, miles from my truck, and I hit one of those big swamps, and I was like, oh man, I had to backtrack and go around that. And I think my cell phone ended up dying. GPS died. 10 o'clock at night, I'm still hiking. I haven't hit a road yet. My compass still works, so I know I'm headed west. I'm pretty sure I'm in New Hampshire. And at one point I stopped, tried to get a fire going, and it was one of those like everything it had rained, snowed, frozen, and every piece of wood was waterlogged, frozen. I got a fire going for like half an hour at one point and tried like laying down and sleeping right there, and that didn't work at all. It was cold. The fire went out. So kept walking. I think it was probably around like 1 o'clock in the morning. I came to a camp. I'd hit a logging road, gone a few miles on that. I came to a camp. I was like, all right, I got to get into this thing somehow. Their back door was like, the hinges were nailed in instead of screwed. So I pulled a couple of nails out and got in the door that way and was like, thank God. I think I started a fire in their wood stove and found some stale peanut butter and crackers. Yeah. Got a few hours of sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're back at camp going, and my dad's freaking out, and I'm like, it's Jamie. Like, he's probably sleeping in his truck on the side of the road or whatever.
Yep.
But they still were, like, we got to go look for him. So we took a ride that night. And once you got out this area the snow was so deep. And, long story short, he ended up
the
coming
snow
back.
was deep back there. I couldn't, especially on that lee side of the mountain. It's nuts. That's what
north side.
So
that's
it
what
took
slowed
you a
me
lot
down.
longer to.
Yeah, I figured I figured I had like an hour or two to get back to the truck, and it was.
And you never made it back.
Never made it back.
It's
even the next
too.
Yeah.
And where I'd parked, I'd gone like way up to the north end of Pittsburgh, and then half a mile up a spur road to where it stopped, almost up to the height of the land there. So my truck was way up there. I didn't know where I was the next morning, so I'm just going west and west and west, trying to get back to somewhere I recognize. Like I think I made it to Route 3.
So you started walking on that road that the camp was on?
Yep, kept going down that road. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. And then I got to Route 3, and a guy picked me up and gave me a ride back up to the spur road where my truck was on.
He must
couldn't
have been
drive
like,
up it, but
where did you come from?
yeah, right. Yeah.
Holy
So I don't think it was till noon before I drove back to camp and
Right, and then
You
finally,
guys
and we were they
stopped
were
having
starting
a
to
heart
get
attack.
they were starting to get even more nervous because now it's like noon the next day, and we haven't seen him
Yeah.
since the night, since the morning before,
Right.
But I wasn't stressed out. I went hunting. I'm like, he's fine.
Yeah.
We took a ride, looked for him in the morning, and I said, it's Jamie. This is normal.
You were cool, calm, collected the whole way when you were walking out. You're like, yo, were you good?
Yeah,
or were you a little
I
nervous?
never panicked or anything.
No.
Like so after I tried starting that fire, which was I think like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I couldn't get it going. I was like, oh man, I am tired.
Yeah.
I've been walking through this hellish snow all day, and I can't really stop. It's too cold.
Yeah, no.
So I'm just gonna keep trudging on
Keep
this
moving.
road. I know this. I started at the end of the road at the swamp, so
Yep.
I know I'm going west on it. I'm gonna come back to civilization eventually.
Yep.
It wasn't like a blizzard or anything.
Yeah,
No,
those
it
big
just
walks are.
wasn't that
brutal.
cold. It was probably in the 20s or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that year was a really good year. He actually, you remember I think it was the day before you shot your 9-pointers, a couple days before. Didn't you see like $5?
Seven.
Holy smokes.
$7
In one day.
In one day.
One spot. Like,
And 2 of them were real big bucks. One of them I saw up close, so I was real good look at his horns. Didn't get a shot. And yeah, it was nuts.
Must have been a real pretty doe in there or something.
Yeah, it had to be. Yeah, it was. So I won't go into this story, but I tracked a buck in a storm, started in a storm. He bedded. I jumped him out of his bed, and I could have shot him, but I couldn't see horns. And it turned out I caught up to him maybe a half mile later with a group of deer and saw him, and he had snow white horns. So I believe when I jumped him the first time, I couldn't see his horns. It was still snowing, and they just disappeared into the snow. But he was with 2 other bucks and several does. Ended up jumping all them, tracking the 3 bucks. And at dark, I stopped at a road. I couldn't track him any further. And I was just sitting there kind of, I don't know what I was doing, reliving the day. And I had a 6-pointer come and try and cross the road I was on. He saw me, went back up. 10 minutes later, an 8-pointer came to the same spot.
Wow.
Saw me, went back up. They were smaller deer that I wasn't interested in shooting, but I was like, wow, that was crazy. And then I looked down the road, and it's pretty dark at this point, and a huge body deer jumps across the road, maybe 100 yards down from me.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know where the 7th one was in there, but I definitely saw 7 that day.
yeah, and
No
then
kidding.
he gets back to camp and tells us the story, and he's like, you got to come hunting in there with me. He's like, don't tell too many people about it, but it's a good spot. I'm like, yeah, I'll take a peek. So it was the next day you went and shot the 9, right?
Yep.
Which is a beautiful buck. What'd he weigh? 180 something?
I think he was right 177. I think it's the same as yours.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think-
that's right. Yeah,
I think
he
it
weighed
was
the
the
same
same
as
as
mine.
yours.
Yeah. So yeah, when he picked up that track, that was one that had 3 legs, right?
Yep. I thought that track, I thought he was a huge buck because he had a 12-inch stance between his tracks. And I was like, oh man, this is the buck. And I'm tracking him. I picked him up at the top of a mountain, tracked him all the way to the bottom, and he'd bedded 3 or 4 times on the way down with a walking track out of the bed. I was like, oh, he must have been in the storm. He was just holing up and then moving or whatever. And I don't remember if I figured out. I think I did figure out at one point that he was limping. And that's the only reason he had that wide stance. When I ended up shooting him, he'd been shot in his rear hock. It was like there was a huge blood mass in there, which was screwing him up. So yeah, I thought that was the big one. He was still a good buck.
You got to tell the ending of that one.
Oh right, the magic bullets from Ryan. Yeah,
This is where the magic bullet comes in.
the first time I caught up to him, I was almost back to where I'd parked, and low ground, and we had a wicked wind that day. Remember, it was like 30, 40 knots out of the west, and we'd come down the lee side of the mountain. We got to the bottom, and it was kind of an open, little swaley, but trees and everything, and so I knew I was close to him. He'd fed a little bit down there, and all of a sudden, I hear jumping, and I see a flash, and I look up, and the buck's running away from me. Good ways out. He's probably 100 yards out when I saw him there. I pull up, and I'm looking for a shot, and I see a flicker, and then he's gone. I'm like, bang, where he disappeared, which not expecting to hit him, but I don't know about you. I've taken a few of those shots where I think he just disappeared into those bushes right there. I'm going to take a try on that one. So I shoot, and like I have before, and not hit anything, and I'm like, oh, that was cool. That was a good size. I saw a wide rack when he was running away. And so I start walking to see where he went, and I see movement. I'm like, no way, he's down. I see movement. I'm like, oh my God.
You got
I'd hit him right in the spine from directly, he was directly going away from me. Yep.
You can't get him if you don't shoot.
Oh,
That's right.
Couldn't
That's right.
believe that. I was probably like a 150-yard shot, and
Yeah.
he wasn't there. But
You know,
he
and
was there.
I get it from some people that, they listen to these encounters and these recounts of these stories, and they're like, geez, that seems a little reckless. But you got to understand, where we're hunting is vast
Yeah,
wilderness.
there's nobody back there.
There's nobody around us. It's not like
Especially
you're gonna,
if the deer just ran there.
right.
Yeah,
And,
really
and
not anybody there.
in addition, like I think it's your responsibility as a tracker to go after them. And like when you hear us talk about we got them wounded and we're killing the deer, and in 90% of the time, if not even greater, when you get them leaking and they're still leaking, you're gonna get them.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to add that in there because sometimes people are like, what are you shooting at? I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that to anybody, but in that situation where
you
you
got
see it's
to.
a big
Oh,
buck,
I
he
would.
was bedded right there.
Yeah.
And he just disappeared right there.
And you got
There's
him.
not going to be some guy there where he
no
just
way,
ran to.
no way. And you got him, and it brings us back to the magic bullets. Our buddy Ryan does a lot of hand loading, and I brought my gun to him, and we must have tried 15 different flavors, this and that, and finally we came up with this recipe that shoots really good out of the 30-06 pumps that we hunt with, and I think that was the first year he was hunting with them. The year before I killed my buck, and I'm notorious for shooting a lot, and Ryan's like, so what happened? I'm like, he stood up and I shot and he dropped. I'm like, it's friggin' your magic bullets. I didn't even get to shoot more than once. And then he says, dude, you're right. Those bullets worked. He goes, the deer was out of sight. I pulled the trigger. I was like, there's no way I got him. I go over there and he's laying there flopping. Yeah. So that's the magic bullet story. But no, so Jamie shot that buck. And that same day, I was hunting almost in the same area. And I had picked up this giant buck track, which ended up being the buck that I tracked for 2 weeks. So I barged through camp all hot, you're not going to believe, tell him the day. I jumped him down in the swamp, and he's sitting there in his PJs. Yeah, cool. So I'm like, how about you? How'd your day go? Oh, I got one. I'm like, you what? He's like, I got one. I'm like, well, where is it? He's like, it's in the back of the truck. I'm like, well, let's go look at it. Okay, let me get my Crocs on.
It's funny.
I can't believe
I was back to camp by noon that day.
Yeah, he's like got a couple beers in him. He's just chilling.
Yep.
Lets me tell my big story, which was nothing compared to his story. He's got a dead buck in the back of the truck, so we went out and looked at it. It was a giant. We'll get some filming. We'll film it a little bit so you guys can see it on YouTube. But that was a good day, and that was the first day I ended up tracking the biggest rack buck that I ever. Maybe the 8-pointer I shot in Maine might be right there with it. But anyway, one of the biggest rack bucks I ever shot. Yep. So I got to thank Jamie for that one. But same area.
Yeah, I wish I was still there when you finally got him. But man, it was like you cut his track every day for weeks, right?
Yeah, I just
almost every day.
Almost every day I tracked him. I mean, one day I got cut off on him, and the guy stayed on him. I mean, I was on him for a good 2-3 miles, going on him hard. And I never caught the guy. I never caught the deer, and I just kind of got sick of doing that, and went somewhere else. But yeah, I tracked him for 2 weeks, and I mean, to be honest with you, towards the end, I was just getting frustrated.
I would imagine, Jesus.
Like, he was going down in that big swamp, and he'd do what I believe was his night walk looking for love, and he never found love on any of the days that I followed him. He'd chase some does and stuff, but never got with a doe. And then finally on Thanksgiving, we got some snow, and we found the buck's track from the road. Greg was with me. He was in the passenger seat. And the deer had come to the edge of the road, but didn't cross the road, and was up on the bank. And I mean, it had. And this is where, I don't get how people go, it's a 200-pounder, because this is one of the biggest tracks I've ever followed.
Yeah.
Stagger, rounded toes, the whole nine. And he weighed 177. But anyway, I ended up picking him up. Again, thanks to my buddy Greg, who saw it, because I was going to drive right by it. And he was with a doe, which was a game changer, because this buck was so smart. But when he was with that doe, she was making the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know how that works, right? They're always the boss.
Of course.
Yeah. And, I mean, I didn't go 100 yards, and I jumped them out of their beds. Never saw them, just heard them go. And I did the Hell Blood special, gave them 20 minutes, half hour. Went on them, and they were running, just trying to put some space between them and me. And they literally went from a run to a trot to a bed.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm going along, and and my head's up, and I only went probably 1.5 miles or so. And I look, and the doe was she half stood up. She like caught, like we locked eyes, and she's looking at me. I'm looking at her, and I'm like, guns up, and I'm looking for the buck. Well, of course, he's bedded behind a blowdown, and all I see was that tight rack jump over the blowdown. I'm like, oh my God, he was right there. Actually, I got to look through one of my cell phones because I remember I filmed myself. I'm like, I just need a friggin' break. Yeah. Like, come on, dude. Like, I'd seen him a couple other times, on the other days when I tracked him, but no shots.
Yeah.
Like, just flashes. And so finally, I started tracking him again after 15, 20 minutes, and same thing. Just going. And I probably went 2 miles, 3 miles this time. I was pretty good clip because I parked up top, and then I shot him down in the other road, the one that comes out there.
Yep.
I was only, quarter of a mile from the end of that. And I'm going along, all of a sudden, my radio goes off. And now my dad, it was Thanksgiving, my mom had come up and stuff, so I was like, I'm not gonna, he wasn't gonna hunt that morning or whatever. So I was like, I'm just gonna go. I'm obviously going. It's good conditions. And he ended up being like 0.3 of a mile from me. He'd come in late. And I'm like, he's like, are you on him? I'm like, yeah, I'm on him. He's like, I gave him a quick little dime tour of my day. And I'm like, Dad, I got to go because I want to kill his buck. It's not super late, but it's like 1 o'clock or whatever. And I literally put the radio down, took a step, looked to my left, and he stood up out of his bed 30 yards away.
Really?
And I saw him, and I remember because the year before I had screwed up and shot a small buck.
Oh, yeah.
That I thought was the big buck. Remember that?
Yep.
And so I was like, wait a minute, make sure it's him. So I turned the scope up, put it on his head, went, oh my God, put it down, boom. And again, magic bullet, he just folded right there.
Yeah.
But
Still have some of those bullets?
I do.
I got a couple left.
Dude, we need to, Ryan Bonner, are you listening?
He'll make them.
You need to make us some bullets, dude. We're running low.
They round nose?
No, they're Sierra Game King 165 grains,
Yep.
I believe is the bullet.
Yep.
But then it's the recipe, it's the length.
Okay.
Spire point, soft spire point, something like that. Yeah.
They're magic.
Cool.
You can actually not even shoot at the deer, and the deer goes down.
Just fire.
Must not have been using them this year on my hunt.
It's a pretty good selling point there,
11.
I think.
Yeah, 11 shots later.
Yeah.
But
Well, guys, this was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Fun.
Yeah, it was a good time.
yeah, well, I think we could probably have you guys on again and tell a whole lot more
I
stories.
could tell like 100 more stories.
I know,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah,
The hour goes by.
You're
fast.
training Kyle over here to be a killer, so
He doesn't need any training.
No,
We
you
started
better-
hunting together because he was killing big bucks, and I wanted
Yeah.
to see what he's doing.
that's awesome.
He's definitely helped me out with a bunch of stuff tracking. But you just got to be confident,
Yeah.
And you got to do it. That's it, I think.
Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, you got to go.
Yeah.
Can't kill him at the camp, and
No.
Yeah, I'd say that's the biggest key to success is just to
keep going.
keep going,
trying.
just keep hunting.
Yep.
Don't stop.
Yep.
Not like don't take a break every day, but just to keep going until you get one.
That
Yeah.
perseverance,
That's-
like we talked about.
It's the only secret that I know.
That's what
to-
makes
to
you
getting-
successful tuna fishing too.
Yeah.
I was going to say those are words to live by.
Yep.
Anything in life.
Yep.
Just don't give up.
If you
That's
want it, you try hard. And
It's frustrating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I enjoy hunting so much. It's really not that frustrating for me because
Right. Same here.
I never have wanted the season to end. So that's not that hard for me to keep going. But that's definitely the trick to getting them.
Yep.
yeah,
for
I
sure.
always have this sense of, it's a weird emotion when you shoot them.
Yeah.
because it's over.
I'm almost disappointed.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Doesn't matter how big they are.
Yep.
It's like, oh man, I'm happy, but I'm sad because it's over. I got to wait a whole nother year. That's why I started hunting on the States. But
Right.
Yeah.
we should probably wrap it up. But hey, I really appreciate you coming on,
Hey,
guys.
thanks you guys. That was fun.
Taking time out of your day, and
Thanks for having me.
thanks
on.
for
right.
Isaac coming down.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Okay.